Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a sisters video. Now, do I have a problem with sisters? Maybe, but genuinely trying to keep it as objective as possible. It looks like sisters won a little bit more than people realize. And I'm not saying that this now pushes them to OP, but I do think once the faction specialists get back to playing sisters and not the Thousand Suns Codex, I think there's actually a bit more here than people are giving it credit for. And actually, I'd give GW a bit more credit here. I know that people are going to be like, well, they wouldn't have to fix it in the first place if they didn't do it in the first place. I got that. But looking at the changes that happened in the balanced data slate and the MFM, it looks like they made a genuine attempt to kind of fix what they did without possibly breaking things again. It does seem like they are scared to just completely unnerf Bringers of Flame. But past that, let's take a look. Champions of Faith. They learned their lesson, kind of. You all told them, hey, uh, I don't have the miracle dice for this, especially after the change. I don't have it for this. So they said, hey, what about Champions of Faith? No longer requires you to discard any dice. You just get to choose 3 units, up to 3 units, make them righteous, and do the things. And for a refresher, what you get with that becoming righteous, you get +1 to move, +1 leadership, and if you're a Battle Sister Squad, Celestian Sacrosanct, or Paragon Warsuits, your weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristic goes up by 1. Celestian Sacrosancts also get +1 OC while they're not battle shocked. That's cool, right? But then also, Zephyrum and Retributor Squad got a change. And I actually think I have a kind of a gripe here, but not against sisters. Zephyrum Squad, you no longer have to once again discard a miracle dice so that when you charge in melee, you can get both sustained and lethals. Now, uh, you still, if you are in ongoing combat, have to pick one. Uh, But that's fine. Not having to discard a miracle dice, even better. And I think that's going to get even better in some things, so on and so forth. And the Retributor Squad. Now, each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1. If such an attack targets an enemy unit that has destroyed one or more sisters units from your army during the battle, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll instead. Now, at first I was like, this is massive. This is pretty massive, and I still think it's really, really good. Then I saw what you could kit out the Retributor Squad with, because I hadn't seen them. And, I think there's some merit to going to reroll wound rolls of 1, but also, here's the other thing, right? I think that you could have safely made it so that if you target a unit that destroyed a sister's unit, you just add that on top of. I think you could do as well as here because mathematically, reroll hit rolls of 1 is the same as add 1 to hit roll. Same, of course, for wound rolls goes that way. So it's really a trade off mathematically. I don't really know why they wasted time doing that instead of going with as well as, because you should roughly be doing the exact same thing. If you're wounding something on 5s with rerolls of 1, or reroll wound rolls of 1, you're probably going to get another 5. But if you are now wounding them on 4s, you're probably still missing what you would and getting them on 4s. It's a bit odd that that's how that crunch out usually happens. That the math part isn't the odd part, I guess I should say. It's odd that they didn't consider that, but at the same time, I guess you couldn't just full send Retributors at what, 115? Yeah, 115 points, 5 models, 15 models with reroll hit rolls of 1, reroll wound rolls of 1, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Yeah, I guess you couldn't just full send it, and they have, attachments, right? We'll get to that. I understand the hesitancy, but I think if you were going to write the rule, you just go for it, no? So yeah, a bit weird. Then coming over here to the points, I I I don't know why I'm not hearing more about that. Castigator's coming down, Immolator's coming down, Judith coming down, the Triumph coming down. People would argue the Triumph still needs to come down a bit, but I still want to talk about the Triumph's inclusion. Seraphim coming down, Retributor Squad, Repentia, and Paragon Warsuits all coming down is pretty good. And this is the part where I realized that they buffed every detachment in the Sister Codex. Like, not even joking. Army of Faith has better Zephyrim and cheaper Seraphim. Uh, Champions of Faith, cheaper Paragon Warsuits, better detachment overall. Penitent Host, cheaper Repentia. What else we got? I said Bringers of Flame. Yeah, that's the one. Can't believe I forgot that. And Hollowed Martyrs, obviously, it's index. But Hollowed Martyrs, as I was going through everything, Bringers of Flame, excuse me, while I was going through everything to figure out how Retributors work a little bit better, I realized that, yeah, the thing that really hurts Bringers of Flame still is the 2 command point cost for these stratagems. But you have cheaper Triumph and Junith, and also you didn't get hit by like the changes that I did over here in Tyrannage, or that in theory got hit on Calgar or anything, like the one that was kind of rumored. You still have access to being able to gain a command point and reduce it with a canoness, so these 2 CP stratagems still can find a way to be 1 command point uh, per that with the cheaper units. And Retributor Squad, giving them Assault, reroll hit rolls of 1, reroll wound rolls of 1, plus 1 strength, is pretty good. But I will give them credit on their math here, because this is where I do have to eat my words a little bit. If you take their strength up to the Retributor Squad, there is some breakpoints where now you are going to be effectively +2 to wound if you select the right target in Bringers of Flame, right? If you're within 6, +1 strength pushes you from, you all go here, Retributor Squad. Now let's go with the Heavy Flamer. Y'all go from strength 6 to strength 7. That's a breakpoint for a lot of things, and then going +1 to wound is pretty good too. So, some T7 unit looking at Death Guard right now, you're now wounding them on 4s and then wounding them on 3s if they've destroyed something, which is a little bit better than, going up to 7, re-rolling wound rolls of 1, and shaky. It's still shaky, but there's some breakpoints where it does. Or I guess the better example would be going against something that is uh, T6, bump up to T7, so now you're wounding them on 3s, and then +1 to wound, so now you're wounding them on 2s. That's probably the better example. But yeah, Retributor Squad, 115 points. To me, this looks like a good unit. I'd have to hear from you all, but for me, this sounds pretty sound, especially if you combo that with the brick of the Hospitler and the Celestian Sacrosanct, that once they finally go down, you just take Retributors to clean it up in something like this. That seems pretty fine. But going on even further, like, yeah, obvious Champions of Faith got better. Bringers of Flame got better by proxy. Where, going back to Junith for a second, Fiery Conviction, if your model is on the battlefield at the start of your command phase, you can choose one of the following. Discard 1 Miracle Dice and gain 1 command point. Take a leadership test. Gain 1 command point. With cheaper Junith, I know people don't necessarily want to include a character to be able to get a command point that's, you know, outside of those purposes, not terribly great, but it can attach to the Retributor Squad, so at least 1 Retributor Squad, -1 to hit, and Junif just there. Seems like not too bad of a deal to me as a non-Sisters player. Also want to go over here to the Triumph of St. Catherine being cheaper. Yeah, 235 and being able to choose 2 abilities, adding to the movement. 2 acts of faith, re-rolling wound rolls of 1. So if you are in the situation where Triumph next to Retributor Squad, after we've calculated this whole strength wound situation and then re-roll wound rolls of 1 on a heavy flamer, yeah, that's pretty decent. Feel no pain 6 up on some shit that, I mean, maybe you do take Junith on Sacrosanct instead of Hospitler. That way you have a 6 up Feel No Pain here thanks to the Triumph of St. Catherine. This just seems better for Sisters overall. Now, does this mean that they'll be the tournament topping menaces? I think there's a lot of new things going on that would make it hard for them to do so. But I think that you all might be a little bit more solid right now than initially believed, I guess, because this kind of just went under the radar. But like cheaper Paragon Warsuits, and you still have the same problems, right? You definitely still have the same problems where you can't really punch above T10 like that. It's pretty hard to do that. But to that same point, one other one of the changes that I want to talk about is, yeah, well, going back to like one that got buffed by Proxy, Army of Faith, I guess not Proxy, this was more direct. Getting Faith and Fury on a squad of Seraphim, Zephyrim, excuse me, couldn't say that one. Squad of Zephyrim that doesn't have to discard a Miracle Dice and can just gain a Miracle Dice to keep this detachment going is pretty good. Throw AP on there if you want. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Seraphim being cheaper, which, do some actions and get these auras going of, -1 to hit, uh, ignore stuff, mortals and whatnot. So, feel no pain versus mortals, I should say. So, Army of Faith gets you buffed. Champions of Faith gets you buffed. Bringers of Flame gets buffed. Penitent Host, I know nobody, I thought nobody was playing that. But let me correct that, because when I did the Penitent Host video, I found out a couple of you know more about this than I gave you credit for. And to that, I saw that I should correct it in this video while I'm talking about it. I think I said something along the lines of I can't see why you would take Catechism of Divine Penitence. And I did see a comment that said, no, that's actually like kind of an include. That's kind of a staple. So even here, can be attached to Repentia. Guess what? Repentia got cheaper. So Penitent Host even gets a buff. It just looks pretty nice. Hallowed Martyrs. And this is one thing that I do want to put here. I thought that Hallowed Martyrs Retributor would be a little bit better, but I think if they reverse the rules, where you get +1 to hit, uh, +1 to wound, and then re-rolls into a target that already killed somebody, it might work better with Hallowed Martyrs. No, actually, if I actually Hollow Martyrs, I don't know. You all tell me which scenario happens for you more often. Because a Retributor squad that loses one model gets the +1 hit, +1 to wound, and as long as they make a ranged attack, rerolls. Yeah, I guess that is better this go around. So yeah, even to that extent, I think Sisters just got a pretty nice buff. And again, I understand you shouldn't have to give credit to somebody that fucked up in the first place. And usually I'm among that philosophy, but I'm seeing better things out of GW, and I would like GW to continue this route of kind of game design. Like, this is nice coverage, and I understand you go, well, it's getting later in the edition. They always figure out better later on in the edition how to do all the things, and that's fine. That's fine. But I just think that I'm seeing good things. I'm seeing good things. I don't know if teams are talking to each other yet, because there's still a couple of things that I'm like, well, while we're talking about things, why didn't, X, Y, and Z go down instead of this? Like, especially, full disclosure, I was preparing to make a Necrons video as somebody that likes Necrons. And then I looked over at Sisters instead that I've been putting off, and They're like, nah, I think I actually finally absorbed my opinion, informed my opinion about how I feel about the sisters' changes. As somebody that I don't like going against sisters. I don't. I get it. You know, you trade off the weak data sheets for the utter insane bullshit you get to pull because of Miracle Dice and rules. But you know, we all have that faction or two. My other one that I dislike is Death Watch that you go into and just go, how's that fair? So, you know, it happens. I understand. But sisters, I can let go of my gripes to say this is pretty nice and I'm happy for you all. So yeah. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, mom monstrosities.